Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with you on this Saturday college football, basketball, baseball blitz. That's right, man. It is never too early, and I can assure you two things. One is the people that at the Masters in Augusta don't decide in late March, man, we got to get out there and mow the lawn and cut the grass and get those greens looking good. They're out there right now getting ready for that first Saturday weekend in April. Same thing with baseball. Auburn baseball coach Butch Thompson, who's been to two of the last three College World Series out in Omaha, is going to bat in the leadoff position with us, taking time to join us today. We really appreciate it. Second segment, Kevin Scarbinsky, a longtime sports writer, now with the Birmingham Leade and CoachSafely.org. They're doing a lot to get more people involved in coaching and coaching, as I say, safely. We're not trying to make the game less rough, tough, physical, or anything like that. But we're trying to get more people involved that can help. And he's going to talk about that as well as the whole world of college athletics. Buddy Martin joins us in the second hour from GatorBaitMedia.com. And the attorney, Jack Turner, graduate of the Hugo Black College of Law in Tuscaloosa, talking about NIL, the legality, these contracts, what's going on, antitrust laws and whatever. I love college athletics, and I'm all about capitalism, but I sure want to make college sports special, and I think you learn the lessons of life through hard work. And if you're a pre-med student, pre-law, college athlete, whatever, you work hard and you do it right, you're going to be in great shape for your whole life. It's just fun watching college athletics. They get better every year. Follow us on Twitter at @sidelines_live, and we're here Monday through Saturday, 6 days a week. We're also on 680thefan.com, the podcast park in Atlanta, right there in the Battery, 50 feet from the front gate of Truist Park, home of the Atlanta Braves, the 21 World Series champions. And hopefully they'll get back there this year. Braves Mania. We're kind of flanked on the eastern front by our Braves fans, on the western front by the Cardinals. And at a young age, you got to decide, if you grow up in Mississippi, in Amory, Mississippi, I'm going to ask Butch Thompson this question. Were you a Cardinals fan? Or were you a Braves fan? Or were you a fan of both? But let's head down to the Plains. Butch Thompson joins us. And Coach, first off, hope you're having a great day. And you probably been up for 2 or 3 hours. But Cardinals or Braves, what'd you grow up pulling for?
I'm an outlier. I'm the black sheep. Los Angeles Dodgers, baby.
All right. Okay.
And every friend was listening. There's no doubt that I still had some nights where I fell asleep and, listening to that AM radio. So I'm dating myself a little bit, but I would say I was a Dodger fan, man. I just absolutely loved, Bill Russell and Steve Sachs and, Garvey. Steve Garvey was there at first base and you score around the horn. Mike Scioscia was a catcher.
Yep.
The first time I saw Fernando Valenzuela's eyes look up in the top of his hat as he was delivering a pitch, that was my time.
Yeah.
But there were a few nights that I fell asleep watching the Cardinals. I thought they did the best job on AM radio, I guess. But my heart was with those Dodgers and watching the Lasorda waddle around. I always liked Tommy Lasorda.
Oh, I do too. I mean, talk about a motivator and a great speaker. And I'm like you. Billy Roberts is joining us here in just a minute over in Atlanta. And Billy is he and I went to Auburn together. He's a Bravesologist from LaGrange, and he studies the Braves, as a science and a baseball fanatic. Coach, when I was growing up, I would listen to KMOX 1120 AM out of St. Louis, Jack Buck, Mike Shannon. Before that, Harry Carey used to do the games on the radio, and Harry Carey, left the Cardinals, and of course he went on to fame with the Chicago Cubs. But and as far as the Braves, AM 750 WSB, Coach, you remember the White's radio log? That's what I got, and I'd listen to Ernie Harwell, AM 760. Out of Detroit with the Detroit Tigers. And of course, you listen to WBBM out of Chicago and listening to baseball. But that's what we love about baseball. And Billy, you're on here with Coach Thompson right now. And
Hey,
Allie Prescott was director of the Memphis Redbirds when they opened up AutoZone Park, AAA farm team of the Cardinals. And he said, when you look around in the Mid-South, around Memphis, you go in towns like Osceola and Nesbitt, Mississippi, and Trenton, Tennessee, and the Boot Heel and Kentucky and Illinois. Guy and his wife sitting on the front porch with a pitcher of lemonade, iced tea, whatever, listening to a ball game. They listen to the pregame, the whole game, and the post game, the whole thing. But there is no greater sport, in my opinion, to attend in person than baseball. And I reminded my wife, by the way, Coach, you get me wound up because when you're on here, I think about winning. But you talk about how calm you are, and I always watch you in the dugout. Everybody does at that World Series out in Corvallis against Oregon State. And you said, Rob, I may look calm, but I know you like the duck hunt. I'm a lot like that duck that on the top surface of the water, he looks real calm, but under the water, his feet are spinning. So, but anyway, let's talk some baseball. I know, Billy, you got some questions, so let's roll. Go ahead, Billy.
Yeah, Coach, we're looking forward to the upcoming season. I know, pitching is always at a premium, particularly when you get a crop of new guys and you're not sure what you've got. How soon, I know like with Major League Baseball, they've got spring training coming up in a couple of weeks. How soon do you start with pitchers and catchers? Do you mirror kind of what they do with the pros, or do you have a different schedule in college?
Yeah, well, I know our schedule. So we started the first day of school here. So we're in our second week with guys, but we can only go, they only get 2 hours a week with us. They get more hours in training. So we're doing a lot of conditioning. They get 2 hours with us, 8 hours with the strength conditioning or the training staff. And we're leading up. The lead up is next Friday, the 27th. That's a uniform date for all of college baseball to start with your entire team in a full 20-hour week. So then we'll start having those full practices of 4 hours, and that'll give us 3 consecutive weekends. And most people go like Friday, Saturday, Sunday squad games, and maybe that next Tuesday to mirror the schedule that's upcoming. So you get 3 weekends of that. And pitchers and catchers, they've just finished their second bullpen. Tomorrow we'll start our third round of throwing, and then they'll throw to hitters starting tomorrow, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then we'll start our first squad game next Friday. So yeah, Rob, our feet are going wide open beneath the water right now in anticipation for deal. And everybody's got their own thing. You can see all the preseason stuff that's out there. You got 9-10 teams ranked. The Auburn Tigers, that's why you can't worry about the outside. I think we're ranked between 17th preseason and like 500, and there's only 300 teams. So, how do you build your mind? And I could care less about the outside now at my age, and especially the preseason stuff. I care more about if my locker room thinks, last year we were picked last in the SEC West, and hopefully we are again. I think we attacked pretty good from that stage, but
I think so.
It really doesn't matter. All that matters for me is what my locker room thinks. And to give people some credibility, I don't even know who we are yet. When you got 24 new players in our program, you lose 5 pitchers in the top 12 rounds. And all 8 guys, you lose the SEC Player of the Year. I don't even know what we have yet. I don't think we've lost talent, but we absolutely lost experience on the mound. And nobody wants those words to come out of their mouth. But I like what we got with Joseph Gonzalez coming back, and Chase also. A big piece. Can he move into that second role? His talent says he can. So we'll see how that goes. And in some ways, Tim Hudson had built up, and before he left us maybe more arms, and through our recruiting, we feel like we have a deeper, more talented staff. But when you start talking about those guys that left, man, we lost some experience, and it probably starts at the back, not the front. Burkhalter, the highest drafted reliever in last year's draft in the second round, a walk-on. And for him to do what he did last year, I believe we have enough talent to fill in a lot of roles. But our success will absolutely be determined on what young man steps in that role and tries to fill those britches, huge britches, voided by Blake Burkhalter in that closing role.
Yeah. Coach, I think about, you just mentioned it, where you're picked, whether it's last in the West or whatever, and you've been to 2 of the last 3 College World Series in Omaha. And I think about you're very strong on the psychology of coaching and sports and positive energy. And I read that book in the arena from Coach Dye, and he said he used to like to stand in the backfield at practice on the offensive side and watch the quarterbacks and watch what they would do after a play went bad, if they hung their head or whatever. He goes, none of my quarterbacks were allowed to have a negative thought in their head. And that also reminds me of something I read that Mahatma Gandhi said one time: I will not allow other people to walk through my mind with their dirty feet. And I love the way, you look at it. And coaching, you mentioned 25 new players on that roster. You don't know how they're going to act until you get out there and have those 4-hour practices, do you?
You don't. And you're right. And if I don't emulate something of like responding correctly, how can I ask everybody else in the organization to do that, whether I like it or not? There's a there's a hierarchy of how we're going to think and do. And, all the things you were just talking about, I think the words we use is, no one. Gabe Gross, I don't care. Carl Nunemaker, he's assistant coach of the year. I don't care. Darren Schoenrock, who's been at Memphis the last 18 years, was my pitching coach, takes Tim's spot on our staff as pitching coach. I don't care if it's Nate LaRue, who I think is coming back as the best catcher in the SEC. Kason Howell has been at Auburn longer than I have, played in center field. He's one of these guys that feels like it's his 10th year in the program. Bobby Pierce, I don't care if it's at the top of our food chain or not. No one is allowed to be sad till the season's over. And, that's like our first meeting back. So, this sad stuff starts pulling at our fabric of trying to win the next pitch, staying in the fight, because last year's team had 22 come from behind wins to lead America. That was one of our strengths. If you stay in the fight and you don't allow anybody to be sad till the season's over, man, the man, the woman, the team, the family that absolutely will not quit is hard to beat. Period. Yeah. There's no anything else to it. If you understand that, believe it, and make sure everybody can at least come to a common agreement on that, man, you got a shot.
Yeah, Coach, I think before I go back to Billy, maybe the most important regular season win was the Saturday night victory up in Knoxville against Tennessee. After what happened Friday night, Saturday night, you came back, you won like 8-5, and you didn't win Sunday, but you played them off their feet Sunday. And it's not what happens to you in life. You get sucker punched at 3 a.m. in the side of the head, you get on the ground, you better get back up. Y'all got back up, and that changed the narrative for everybody else that played Tennessee from that point on. But especially it mattered how Auburn came back and you got to the College World Series. And wow, I mean, you want to win the whole thing, but considering how Tennessee was, King Kong, nobody could touch them. And Auburn was close to taking 2 out of 3, even though they didn't. I think your players started going, these coaches are right. It's in us.
Well, you bring up a good point. We did lose 2 out of 3 in Knoxville. And that Sunday game, you wound up being 3-3 in the 8th inning, and Joseph Gonzalez had pitched a great game. And, I stayed with him too long because I don't know. I don't want to ever take him out. And I think that was the best that I had on the mound at that point in time of the weekend, because you had lost to Hayden Mullins, a good draft pick, and Blake Burkhalter in game 1. They both went out. You lose your number 1 starter and your closer in the same ball game. And I think they beat us, 300-1 or something that first night. And so that was a big swing. But we got back on the bus coming out of Knoxville. Because I think Tony's team last year was one of the top 3 teams I've seen the last 2 decades plus that I've been in the league. So I don't need anybody from the outside to tell me when I've actually sat in this space and watched all these teams with my own eyes. And it was one of the best teams that we've had on one hand the last 2 decades plus. I think our roster gained something from it, even from a setback, from a failure, from a loss. That I think we can hook it up. If we get our minds right, I think we can hook it up with anybody in America. And that's what our league does. Our season was ended in the College World Series, by the SEC West. Ole Miss and Arkansas were our 2 losses. A great Stanford team that won the Pac-12 was elite, the number 3 national seed. That was our 1 win in Omaha last year. But we have to figure out the SEC West right in front of us. Yeah. Because we do. We dream, no matter what kind of category somebody tries to put us in. We are dreaming of the big one because of our journey. And so no influences or thoughts. I respect them all. I got no problem because I don't even know but we are experiencing something that we are trying to figure out some inches and some little codes and recipes to. We're trying to win the big one, and that's what I love about our program right now.
Yeah.
I love about our fans right now. I love playing in the SEC. And back to that point, when you go through 10 weeks of our league and you get to see some stuff like Tennessee, it equipped us to make that journey, to be able to be competitive against a Florida State and a UCLA in your regional, which I thought we had the toughest, most exciting regional. We just played great in it. And then we had to go 2,150 miles to Oregon State, who was hosting their 7th super regional and never lost one. And I just go back to go like Tennessee, playing on the road anywhere or playing anybody at home, our league, it prepares you. But if you get in the postseason and there are only potentially 4 teams standing in your way of going to Omaha, man, it gives you a good chance because you are sharpened so well by just playing in this league. And I appreciate every fan base. I appreciate every coaching staff. Love to compete now. We all must love to battle against one another, but we absolutely are creating success for our league. And there you go. Half the field's going to come from the Southeastern Conference in Omaha because there's good teams all over. I'm not trying to wave the SEC flag. I'm just saying, our tournament is the best run thing outside of Omaha. Those 10 SEC weekends, we got a lot of good going on as far as preparing each other. If you can survive, I mean, look at Ole Miss last year with Mike Bianco, that journey, that hard journey, and then they hooked it up. Baseball is –
Coach, if you can hold those thoughts, I want to come back and get exactly what you're saying about Coach Mike Bianco, because they picked out his burial suit, had the flowers on order, and he was a goner at Ole Miss. A lot of people were saying, you know better than that. We're going to talk more with Coach Butch Thompson and Billy Roberts right after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Coach, you were making a great point about Mike Bianco and Ole Miss right before the break. So let's pick up. I want to hear the rest of this.
Just a wonderful job, fighting the challenges of the SEC, getting second life. And I think it's back to the points we're making in the last segment of did Mike Bianco, was he listening to what the world was saying? Or was he an amazing leader, stayed the course, and he got a great group of. Now remember, Ole Miss was ranked number 1 in America earlier in the year. I mean, this is not a rags to riches deal. This is playing in a tough SEC, and you're pitching, getting a little bit off, and then circling back around and staying in the fight and hooking it back up with an opportunity, getting an opportunity and a new injection of life. So it was a pretty good roster that those boys had, and they hooked it up. Of course, we played them game 1 in the World Series, and they got a pitcher on autopilot because coming out of Oregon State was such an amazing ball club. I thought we actually had a chance. It was a different feeling than 2019. I thought we had a chance to win it, but it's like entering a regional again, and you lose that first game, it becomes really tough immediately. And the young man went to autopilot pitching, and I'm wanting to my head, I just want to explode. I'm like, this was our moment, And then 5 days later, when he went 9 innings, CG shutout versus Arkansas, that tempered me a little bit. I'm like, this boy is throwing throwing the ball extremely well. And that helps if you can get one guy to get on autopilot, a starter, and get you going, and it got them in the finals. And because Oklahoma on that other side looked tremendous. And I remember in 13 being 3-0 and like, man, we're about to win the whole thing. And that other team that had to play those extra days, you start laying around for 2 days that late in the year. That's why you see professional baseball basically play every day, all the time. It's this game's meant to be played. And I don't think Oklahoma took the foot off the gas. I don't think we did in 13. It's just you get outside that frame for a day or two, it's really hard to simulate in practice what you're about to go into. And Ole Miss had to play that extra game with Arkansas and had to grind through that because Arkansas beat them and forced them to that final game. And then, Ole Miss was just, they were ready for that finals there with Oklahoma.
Yeah. Billy?
Yeah, Coach, I'm curious about with the sustained success you've had, how it impacts recruiting beyond the region. I mean, you mentioned the SEC West in particular is pretty tough. That's got to be a tough neighborhood to recruit in because there's so many programs that can paint a great picture about what a prospect recruit could expect when he gets there. But with the success and the TV exposure, are you guys starting to get guys interested from way beyond the SEC footprint that want to maybe come to the school, particularly like with a Coach Hudson there to mentor them in the past, with pitching and things like that? How has that gone from outside the region?
Yeah, we've always identified the footprint. As soon as you get there from a recruiting model, if you're going to be a head coach, as soon as I got there, I'm like, what's our footprint historically? And what can we really, really acquire? It's not what you want it to be or what it used to be. What can you acquire? And on the field, I always liken it to like, you got to be good close to home plate. Everybody talks about pitching, and that might be number 2 for me. The most important position is catcher. He's the one that's going to make the pitcher 15% better. Can he handle him? Can he do the rapport with the umpire that's going to make the most decisions and calls right behind him? That connectivity. So I always want to build a team from close to home plate and out. And the way we've always done it was catching, pitching, left side infielders, and we'll recruit multiple shortstops because they have the most movability, if that's a word, around a baseball field. Yeah. And then maybe your center fielder, and then, hey, give me 3 bats that are threats. And that's how we've built our program because we've been limited in that scope with scholarship. That's what's interesting about NIL. And I start traveling home here in a little bit, I might absolutely try to join back in for this and listen to this NIL conversation because we have to become experts and masters of it. Nobody is. Everybody's just talking in a circle. But, there's an Alabama, there's a Panhandle, the state of Georgia, what it's always meant to Auburn because of our geographical locations, yes. But, our number 1 starter, the first guy that's going to get a crack at it's from Puerto Rico. We brought in a reliever from Seattle, Washington that we hope builds the back end of their bullpen. I guess SEC network, the quality. And let me tell you, we're talking about Major League Baseball a while ago. If it continues the trend of the last 5 years, it was 96 last year. We think opening day Major League Baseball rosters this year will have over 100 former SEC baseball players. Wow. That might be 30 or 40 higher than the number 2 conference, whoever that next great conference is. But that's incredible now. That is. Over 100 former SEC baseball players. So now with the availability to see teams, hey, when I was coming through, we're talking about radio and professional baseball. When I was a kid, you didn't get to know a college baseball team until they got to Omaha. You had like a week to figure out, I like this team. Yeah. Oh, that player's awesome. You get to follow Auburn. If you're a fan, you get to follow Auburn from day one. Yeah. You get to learn these players immediately like you do in these other great sports. That's changed our game.
That's great. Absolutely.
And these kids will come from anywhere. Zach Crotchfield from New Jersey is a freshman that we absolutely must develop because there's, it's a 95-mile-per-hour left-hander. They don't fall off trees. There's not many of those with that rack floating around. We're going to play him and develop him. And, he had never been to Auburn until he'd come on his visit. And that's the exposure that all of our teams are getting in the SEC, but we're getting. And, hey, there's still that component. There's still boys that grew up wanting to be an Auburn fan or, a Florida fan or whatever. Casey Mize, his dream, even though he eventually was the first pick of the entire draft, he woke up, he was swinging a bat with a football helmet around the Christmas tree when he's 3 years old, saying War Eagle. So we had him. And we got to keep identifying those, but we got to understand the reach is stronger than ever before for college baseball.
It really is. And I'm being from Memphis. You think about Showing Rock, 18 years at Memphis. I hope, and I'm sure he is, but like my school, Christian Brothers High School, look out there. No baseball program in the state of Tennessee with as many state championships and, runner up, just a great baseball program. But the whole area around Memphis is loaded. And, it's, you've got a staff and, if you could talk about him real quick before, and we'll let you go. I know you got a big day ahead of you, but Tim Hudson's gone back, I think, to coach his son's team there in Auburn. But you don't, you go out, you probably have a list of the top 5 guys that you need at any position in the country with their cell phones on speed dial, don't you?
Well, somebody better. If I don't, somebody in the office better. All right, let me unpack this a little bit. Yeah, we fired Tim Hudson. We moved him to Lee Scott Academy across town.
Yeah.
Cade's a senior in high school. How neat is that? What has he done? Nobody's done more for Auburn University.
Yeah.
And a ton of people give to all their schools wherever they're at. But he not only gave, he come and got in the middle of the ring.
Yeah.
And that's what he did for these last 3 years. I miss him. I miss the morning in the office. I miss that. He's a real man. And I'm going to tell you what, he won 222 ball games in Major League Baseball, was on the Hall of Fame ballot. But I'm not sure he was a pitching coach when he walked in the door. But when he walked out, right now, after 3 years, the analytical development, the understanding, like he knew how to get himself ready to precision for 17 years to do his job. But to teach amateurs how to do theirs, the growth I've seen in 3 years, I've never seen it with anybody in coaching in my 31 years. So I hold him in the highest regard. And it's just amazing how he is giving back to our program. Oh my gosh, when we hooked it up and got back to Omaha and we beat Stanford, that's our first win in 25 years for our program since Tim Hudson won last on the mound.
That's great.
I mean, I was just, Tim, I don't want you to do this because I don't want to mess up your legacy. And then about halfway through it that first year, he's like, get me out of here. I don't want to hurt the program. And then that journey personal with me as a head coach and Tim as a pitching coach, and we march and we're walking on that dirt in Omaha and we're shaking hands after a Stanford win. It's like no regrets. So that sucker found another great theatrical way to exit. And now he's going over and being super dad, coaching his son his senior high school, which he never gives back. And Kim and Tim and the Hudson Foundation, if you could understand what they do in Lee County, Alabama, it would blow you away. That would be another segment. You need to get Tim and Kim to talk about that. Darren Schoenrock's a star. I was humbled last night, and that's less than. I don't like using the word humble because that's less than. But I'm up in Cool Springs Marriott on the 9th floor right now with you because I'm doing that same thing. I understand there's great players in Memphis. So I got to lead off this Tennessee Baseball Coaches Association last night. So I'm up here with the Tennessee coaches about to head back to the Plains this morning, and nobody wanted to see me. I got my Auburn uniform on. I got my World Series patch, and 700 people, all they do is ask me, how's Rock doing? How's Coach Rock doing? Nobody wants to talk about me or anybody else because Coach Rock, I mean, this guy, I think he played at Tennessee Tech and started coaching there. There's some legacy roots there. Was a head coach at Lincoln Memorial, 18 years. This will be year 39 for him, and he's an amazing, amazing teacher. And he was my pitching coach at Birmingham Southern, so I played for him. And then we mowed the grass and dragged the field and taught weight training for about 5 years together as assistant coaches. When me and Miss Robbie got married, he was in my wedding. And then you circle, baseball's beautiful that way. And now you circle that wagon back up, a few decades later. Yeah. And it's been amazing. He's been living in my basement since August. He did take the hint. Miss Robin had finally found him a couple apartments in town. So he has taken the hint, and because all we do is set up and talk about old times every night. I think she got tired of that. But it's been a fun semester.
Well, I mean, Coach, look, I know you got to get going, but I will say something. Billy, I don't know if you saw it, but I told my wife Audrey here. I saw a couple of nights ago, a young man put on Twitter, his sister had been diagnosed with kidney cancer, and the surgery was actually yesterday. And he reached out to the Auburn coaches, and he said, man, this is why I love Auburn so much, is Bruce Pearl, you, Hugh Freeze, Stephen Pearl, all put out messages. And I am so proud that you're coaching at Auburn, but you're a mentor to student athletes. But your faith and your family come first. And that's why your life is what it is. And the people around you benefit, and they're blessed. And we're blessed to have you on here. So let people know, if you could, how they can keep up with you, follow you. And we want to get you back on next week. But again, this is an honor to have you.
Yeah, it's great. It's been too long. It's been good. I've been looking forward to this all week. It's easy. I'll do my same line I've done in the past. It's easy to get in touch with me. It's Butch Thompson at auburn.edu. I'll get back to you in the next 6 months to a year. But be specific and short. And, that's how the criticism is how you build your program. So fire it off. Give me some praise. Give me something that you think can be better, or ways. I'll read them all and try to figure out ways to keep growing. That's really important for me to do. I don't have a big presence on Twitter or anything like that. Chad is a friend. He put that on his beautiful sister, Brittany.
Yeah.
So we do I do those things for just to get to Brittany and then bless that family. And of course that thing went public, and I understand that. And, the surgery was yesterday. And I think the only thing I'm comfortable reporting, because there's a follow-up, and is she needs her prayers. So some of these things are real, and Brittany has a struggle, and I think, she's going to continue to need our prayers from the outcome of everything that happened yesterday. So I would say not just Auburn fans, but everybody in our footprint that can hear our voice, continue to pray for this amazing mother, this amazing young woman, and just pray at those doctors and for her peace moving forward.
Absolutely will. And Coach, man, you're what we need more of in college athletics. And we're going to get into real quick on the NIL part. Jack Turner is a good friend of mine, graduated from Alabama Law School, just about how NIL works and all. But there's a lot going on with it. And I've even got an idea I've come up with of putting together a pension fund for student athletes. You collect all this money, and you can, they want to have some money now, but you want it when you're 25, 30, and 40. And I see that in my practice in wealth management. Everybody likes to defer it until the kids are older. But how about a pension fund? If you graduate, you hit all these benchmarks while you're in school, because to me, and it's nothing against the guys that are the starters and the stars, but if I'm an employer and I'm interviewing a young man or young woman that was in a program for 4 or 5 years as a scout team member, never really played. Maybe the only time they were on the field was when they were hugging their parents at senior night. But if they hung in there and they found excuses to win, they squeeze their hand as hard as they can. Now squeeze it a little harder, but they graduate, they do it right, and they got that letter. I go, let me tell you something. You're telling me you put up with that for 5 years, getting up at 4:30 in the morning, voluntarily. You did this, this, and this. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm hiring that person. That's what we love about college sports. You learn the lessons of life.
Yeah, the score is supposed to take care of itself, right? So we're trying to we talk about Omaha, but really at the end of the day, wouldn't we all put here to create girls into women and boys into men, and the boy is the only thing you got to make a man. And we'd rather build men the right way with whatever strategies, whether it's money strategies or, confidence, or your skills, and acquire more skills gives you confidence. Those things are important, because I hope we get a handle, all these great ideas and things that we hear about. If somebody get a handle to allow us, we're trying to build men, because it's a lot easier to build men than mend men. Yeah. And we got to keep that in mind.
Hey, Coach, you're right. Look, we'll do it again next week. Have a great day. And War Eagle, thanks so much.
Yeah, War Eagle. See you, Bill.
All right.
Thank you, bud.
Hey, that is Coach Butch Thompson down on the plains in Auburn, actually up in Cool Springs, Franklin, Tennessee. And Kevin Scarbinsky is on with us right now. True Grit journalist. This is great, man. This is like having Michelangelo on, a painter, the equivalent as a writer. You get him and Buddy Martin, the great writers. They're great because when they're talking, they're thinking about what they're saying because they've already written it. They've got that engineer type of mentality and approach. But love having Butch Thompson on talking college baseball. It's cold it's still duck season, but practice is underway. And Kevin Scarbinsky, man, we were just talking, and we're about to go to the break. And I was mentioning, in the show that you would be on to Coach Thompson about coachsafely.org. It's not just about football. It's about all sports. And that's something we're going to talk about when we come back with you. And then whatever else is on your mind. I've got Billy Roberts over in Atlanta, Brookhaven, same thing. And I'm here in Wynn at Red River Ford Toyota. Kevin Scarbinsky's in Birmingham. But there's a lot going on in the world of sports, college football, basketball, baseball. And what's great about the writers, again, we take all that stuff and kind of corral it in and talk about it one bite at a time. Right after this quick break on Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynn, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Scarbinsky, talking about coachsafely.org. Again, I mentioned it's not just about football, it's about all sports. And talk about where y'all are reaching out in basketball and soccer. And you think about watching all these young girls playing soccer, college, whatever. They use their head a lot in soccer. That's part of it. And I don't know what's being done in baseball. The helmets, they've got them. They're better than ever. You can't even be a base coach anymore without wearing a helmet. So we're doing things. We're not taking away from the quality of the game. We're just trying to make it safer. But if you would talk about, again, coachsafely.org.
Well, good morning, Rob. Good morning, Bill. Glad to be with you guys.
Always.
Yes, absolutely. Coach Safely is a sport neutral coach training course, if you will, in injury recognition and prevention. It is for coaches and parents of all youth sports. And that's anything you can think of: football, basketball, baseball, softball, lacrosse, soccer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there are things, though, that pertain perhaps a little more to some sports than others, as you mentioned, Rob. In soccer, heading, you don't really want 6 and 7 and 8-year-olds heading the ball. They're still forming, their bones and muscles are still growing and forming. So, that's, things like that are important. And then with baseball, for example, we have a module, and our course covers 9 different subjects, like concussions, sudden cardiac arrest, overuse injuries, which is very important, particularly for baseball pitchers. And I know, having been a pitcher myself, I've had 2 rotator cuff surgeries on my throwing arm and my non-throwing arm through the years. Oh. And my older son was a pitcher. I know the rehab. Let me tell you, the rehab from a shoulder surgery. I had a torn labrum and a torn rotator cuff in each shoulder. And in one of them, the doctor said, "Oh, and by the way, we had to pull your biceps down like a window shade and reattach it." Oh. So that was not fun. The rehab is a bear, but the overuse injuries module focuses on things like pitch counts and throwing year round, playing one sport year round. Kids are specializing in sports younger and younger. And I know in some cases parents are thinking, well, if they're going to get really good at something, let's just focus on that something. That's not healthy. That's not good. If you ask college coaches, they would rather given the choice, have a player who has played multiple sports in high school.
Yeah.
Because you develop different muscles, you learn different skill sets, you're just more well-rounded. And the same thing at the pro level. You look at how many pros have played multiple sports in every sport, whether it's NBA players or Major League Baseball players, NFL players, et cetera. So the overuse injuries, and that overuse injuries are of particular importance to Dr. James Andrews. He's the medical director for Coach Safely. So you don't get any more credibility than that, having him on board to make sure that our course is medically sound, that it is evidence-based, and it is peer-reviewed. Multiple physicians look at our course, look at the content. We do this on a regular basis, so we're up to date, so we're accurate. And again, that course is available at coachsafely.org. Everything you want to know about youth sports safety in terms of injury recognition and prevention, you can find it at our website, again, coachsafely.org.
Yeah. And real quick before we got, I know Billy's got some questions, but I know Dr. Andrews said on the show with us a few months ago that it's not a bad idea to take off a couple of months, not do nothing, but again, the multiple sports. And he referenced a survey from the Super Bowl a couple of years ago at Tampa Bay and Kansas City that 95% of the players in the Super Bowl, 108 with the rosters being expanded and all, 95% of them had played multiple sports. And I think Tom Brady, quarterback of that year for Tampa Bay, had played pretty much everything growing up. And I think it's just good for your body. Again, I'm not a doctor, but I know from just, training for triathlons, my God, when you swim, about every third stroke, you better alternate your breathing, left side, right side, or your shoulder will come off. And when you're, you just think about the body. And as you get older, it's more important than ever to lift weights and exercise. But coachsafely.org, what I see it doing is getting the message out earlier and to more people. And it's not about making football less of a tough physical game, because that's what it is, but it's about playing smarter. You can work twice as many hours in your job and end up in the hospital flat on your back with a nervous breakdown, or you can work more efficiently. And it's more about efficiency. And I think that coachsafely.org. Have you come up with a date real quick though for the dinner, and how can people buy corporate tables and get involved? Now you can get corporate sponsors to coachsafely.org. If we have a lot of businesses, this show is expanding. We just got picked up by WLIV 104.7 in Cookeville, Tennessee, AM/FM sports giant, Kicks 96.3. We're on radio, podcasts. We're all over the place. So we got people that are listening that want to get involved, and they're asking me about it. And I said, I'll have Kevin Scarbinsky on Saturday, and I'm going to ask him.
Well, we have not settled yet on a date and on a featured speaker or speakers. As you know, Rob, you were there, and we appreciate all your support for Coach Safely. Our inaugural event last August, we had Lou Holtz and Paul Feinbaum in a very entertaining and interesting conversation. Those were our headliners, but we also introduced a lot of people to the Coach Safely concept, the Coach Safely brand, and what it's all about. So we are working on that. In fact, we had a board meeting just the other day, and we talked about that. We've got a couple possibilities in mind. Don't want to give out any secrets yet. We haven't nailed that down, but hopefully we will have that news very, very soon, and we'll be planning for that. We're hoping, again, that time frame right before football season kicked off was fantastic on August 22nd. We had to bring in extra tables at the last minute. People were showing up at the door and purchasing tickets, which was fantastic. So we're looking forward to that event. And you can get an idea, Rob, at the website. You can get an idea of some of the corporate sponsors that we already do have. We have what we call a Whistle Society for companies, corporations, or individuals who give $5,000 or more a year. Some very distinguished organizations are part of that. And you can find that on the website.
All right. Billy Roberts jumping here with Kevin Scarbinsky. And Kevin, again, thank you for spearheading this, you and Jack Crow and Dr. Andrews and everybody. This is fantastic. Billy?
Yeah, Kevin's great. I love reading your columns, and it's a thrill getting a chance to chat with you. I think the point you made a minute ago about, the young athletes, their parents really need to step in and kind of make sure they play different sports and not focus too much. I mean, a lot of times it's driven by these crazy parents that want their kid to be a pro. And Rob knows that I played tennis for 40 years. And, if you look at like the female tennis tour, a generation ago, the top players were teenagers. They were 16, 17 years old.
Yeah.
And so you can imagine there was a huge drive by their parents, particularly their male father coaches, that were trying to make sure that they could become a pro and really drive them to probably overtrain and overpractice. But now, if you look at pro tennis players on the female tour, they're older. They're 28, 29. I think the top American woman, Danielle Collins, played at UVA and won 2 NCAA titles. She didn't follow the traditional path, but she, hasn't been injured, and she's had a long career, and she's kind of peaking in her late 20s, which was unheard of a generation ago in tennis. So I think that emphasizes the point you were making, that, the particularly with young female athletes, they need to weight train, they need to play different sports, not focus so much, because they do get these repetitive motion injuries, and then they're potentially done before they could even play like college sports, which is a real pity a lot of times.
It really is. And Bill, the percentage as you go up the food chain in the sports world, and you start at the youth level, that's the largest number of participants across the country. And there's no specific number, because those stats are hard to come by, but estimates, there are 30 million, 40 million, 50 million kids playing youth sports annually in this country. And then as you go, then you go to high school, you go to college, you go to the pro level, and a small percentage from each level advances to the next level.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do, the sad fact is about 70% of kids quit sports or stop playing sports by the age of 13. That's a trend we need to reverse.
Yeah.
Because you guys know, we all know that there's so many values that you gain from playing sports, particularly as a young child. Some places, I know my kids played what they call rag ball in baseball at age 3 and 4. Now, they weren't really playing; they were playing in the dirt. They were watching airplanes overhead. But but they're out there. They're in the fresh air. They're getting exercise. They're part of they're part of something bigger than themselves. They're part of a team. You learn all the great lessons, what it means to be part of a team. You learn how to deal with this. Here's something that's really important. You learn how to deal with failure.
Yeah.
Or a lack of success. And really, we always teach failure is not failure. You fail when you don't try. You fail when you don't play. You fail when you just give up. But if you make a mistake, that you don't fail, you learn, right? That's the best sports psychologists, the best coaches will tell you that. So you learn all of those things at a young age when you play sports, and team sports in particular. So we encourage participation. I mean, just from a health standpoint, think of the healthcare costs in this country that are spent on things like obesity and diabetes and the many health issues that you have when you are not physically active. And so you want to set those habits at a young age, and sports are the best way to do it. But kids aren't going to want to play when they get hurt. When you get hurt and you're not playing, you get discouraged.
Yeah.
And it's a tough thing to deal with. So that's what we're all about. First of all, prevention. The more injuries you can prevent, the better. And while the CDC says youth sports injuries are an epidemic in this country, with about 3.5 million kids seeing some kind of medical care each year for a sports injury. But the positive is that half of those injuries, 50%, are preventable. And how do you prevent? Educate. With education, you educate the coaches, you educate the parents, and that's what we do at Coach Safely. That's what our training course does. And again, it's why wouldn't you take an hour to 15 minutes of your time out of your busy life, and all these volunteer coaches are, they're moms and dads for the most part, right?
Yeah.
They're out there because they want to help their kids and their friends and give them something to do and do something positive with their free time. But they're not doctors. I'm not a doctor. They're not athletic trainers. I'm not an athletic trainer. But you take that course and you'll have a great baseline of knowledge on, first of all, how to prevent injuries, how to keep the kids safe. But if something happens, then what do you do? And that's what we all need to know. If we're involved in youth sports, we all need to know that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with Billy. You look out there now, a lot of the kids coming into college, it's weight training is great, but just raw brute strength. I mean, when Kevin, when you and Billy and I were coming up through college, you remember a lot of the guys played college football at Auburn or Tennessee or Georgia, Alabama, went home in the summer, had a summer job, and then in 83, 84, we started the, you're there all summer cycle, but still guys, some of those guys would come back in terrible shape, look like, junior samples, and other guys would come back looking like Sylvester Stallone in Rocky, took care of themselves, but it's changed. And when you're going 12 months a year, you got to have cycles. You've got the pre-competitive season, or the preseason, the season, the competition season, the postseason, and the off season. You're never not doing anything, but you vary your levels of intensity. And I think the message is hopefully getting out more and more, but coachsafely.org, you have to say, is the tip of the spear. And so many people, like I know a lot of friends of mine, and I hunt with them, several of them are orthopedic surgeons. And they've told me, they said, Rob, most of what we see are the guy that's 5'5", that weighs 300 pounds, that just, I'm going, look, your knees can't take that. I mean, you've got to lose weight. But, it's just look at our society. We got people now that go eat some massive Paul Bunyan breakfast at 5:30 or 6 in the morning, and then go sit on the couch and watch TV all day. In the past, that person eating that Paul Bunyan breakfast went out and worked in the field on a farm or whatever. And then at lunch had a light lunch and ate dinner at 5 o'clock or 5:30. Now we got people, that eat all that food. They don't do anything. And if you take away sports, that's a real problem. And here's where it's so important about what you're doing. I know we're spending a lot of time on this, but there's no sports without, if we don't annuitize the future with coachsafely.org, but it's the number of people that are not in shape to even play the sport. I remember talking to Tracy Rocker, May of 2010, before Auburn won the national championship. Actually, he was in Memphis speaking to the Memphis Auburn Club. And I said, Tracy, what's the biggest difference in the kids that you recruit today, whether it's at Arkansas or Auburn, whatever, and when you and I were in school in the mid-'80s? He said, well, the biggest difference is when you and I were growing up, and I apply this to you, Kevin, up in Pottsville, Pennsylvania, and Billy Roberts in LaGrange, Georgia, is that we got up in the morning, ate something, and we were gone out all day, running, climbing trees, throwing rocks, playing baseball, football, playing tag, hide and go seek. We were running and moving around. We came in at night. We may have ended up the night swimming or something like that. We fell asleep wherever we were. Now you got the kids, as Tracy Rocker said, he's been inside all day playing video games in front of the air conditioning, and his mom drops him off 15 minutes before practice, and it's 100 degrees outside. He's got to acclimate in 15 minutes, and he's specializing. He's got a coach for this and someone for that and someone for that. And we're trying to coach him. It's like, oh, hold on. There's a lot going on here. Let me try to unpack this. I think getting back to the basics where kids are doing more sports, it's just good for your body. And otherwise, all you have is a bunch of players that give it up because they got hurt and they don't know how to come back.
Yeah, there's a great cartoon of, there's two panels, and on the one panel would represent when we grew up, and the mom she's opened up the back door and she's yelling, Billy, Johnny, Joe, come in, and it is getting dark now. And then the other panel, the mom is in the house, she's yelling in the living room, Billy, Johnny, Joe, get outside. It's sunny. It's nice. Put the game down. So it's such a completely different mindset. It's like, just get, there's a great program in the Birmingham City Schools. Actually, it's a national program that they're part of. It's called Let's Move. What a great message. Let's move. That's if we all took that to heart, whether it's just walking for 30 minutes a day as adults, whatever you can do, just do something. And that's really our message. We're trying to train youth coaches to protect young athletes. And here's the bottom line: so more kids will play. Yeah. So more kids will play. That's what it's all about.
Hold those thoughts real quick, and I'll tell you something else before we go to the break. My wife Audrey said we used to, when we were all growing up, you watched TV on the floor, and every time you had to get up, you were building muscle. Think about over the years how much you did that. Another one. Friend of mine, you sound like one of those get off my lawn guys, Rob. When back in my day, we had to get off the couch to change the channel. That's right. Or the clapper. We'll be right back with more on Sidelines.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Houston. Tooling and Done, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, back with Kevin Scarbinsky, Billy Robertson. Just got this text from a listener, the ghost of Johnny Cash from Dias, Arkansas. A friend told me his doctor told him the problem with your back is your front. I was like, there you go. I mean, that's a lot of it. But hey, man, I remember when my boys were playing basketball, I remember in 3rd and 4th grade, they were playing some of these teams in the Catholic and the PAA in Memphis. There were 3rd and 4th graders. They weighed 200 pounds. I mean, 200 pounds in 3rd and 4th grade and wearing shorts, that were like down almost to their ankles. And I'm like going, wow, that's a big boy. How big is he going to be when he's in high school? And being active, and like Audrey's, she's right. You're stretching every time you're moving around. And we look at the football now, and I asked this, I remember though, to Coach Dye 4 years ago. I said, look how tough these players were back when you were coaching and the players today. And he said, well, you're talking about some absolute freaks of nature, and Brent Fullwood, Tracy Rocker, Andre Bruce, Bo Jackson. But these kids today, he said, they're so much bigger, faster, and stronger. They're working out year round. He goes, there's no comparison. He goes, you gave some great examples, but these kids today, they're bigger and faster and stronger than anything we've ever seen. Kevin, can you maybe what's your takeaway from that statement? I mean, Coach Dye was right, but I want to hear what your thought of what he means.
Well, it's funny. You go back, you mentioned Pat Dye. Pat Dye obviously grew up on a farm. He grew up working on the farm.
Yeah.
Working long hours, getting up early, just working all day. You gain, that's a kind of strength you gain. My dad was like that. My dad was not a great athlete. He played baseball in high school, but he was always active. He was always busy. He was always in the yard. He was building something. His name's Bob. We called him Bob the Builder before there was a Bob the Builder.
I love it.
Cartoon. And so, but he set a great example for my brother and me because he was active. He was whether it was on a bowling team, he was on a golf team. He's rebuilding the fence. He's always rebuilding something. He can rebuild your engine. He can rebuild my house. I didn't gain those skills naturally. I'm trying to learn some of them in my later years. I've become a woodworker, trying to build a bookcase right now for my younger son. But again, active. The example you set for your children, what do they see? That's important too. So. And we have to remember, this is so important. And Bill, playing tennis as long as you did. And I'm so excited, Bill. I got to tell you, my younger son is a senior in high school, never played tennis before, played every other sport you can think of, decided he wanted to be on the tennis team. So a year ago, we started playing tennis, and I had played just for fun when I was young and in my teen years. I put my racket away, did other things, picked up the same racket I had 40 years ago and started playing tennis with him. And what a great experience. He made the team. In fact, their first match is a week from now.
That's awesome.
And just, it is so, it is so cool to just be involved, do something, there's something. If you're not good enough to make the basketball team or you don't make whatever it might be, and I'm talking about now more at the high school level, you can do something. You can find something to do. You can find a rec league. You can find a community center. And that's what we need to encourage more of, guys, is more community sports, because we've drifted towards the travel ball side of youth sports, where it's pay for play. You got to pay a lot of money to get on the team, and it's harder and harder to get on teams. We need to make sure we have enough community sports opportunities for all kids of all skill levels, just to get out and, again, be active, move, have fun, be part of a team.
It's exactly right. And I mean, it's no different than the rest of the world, but in Atlanta, pickleball is taking over, and it's just kind of like supersized ping pong in a lot of ways. But, it's a good way to get out and move around. You're using your whole body, and it's, you play doubles a lot of times. So there's 4 people out there. There's some community building just from that aspect. You're getting out, and, you can't do it on your own. You got to have 3 other people. And, I've got a daughter, you guys have kids, man, to get them to reach out to their friends physically, not, over online, and to make a plan and get off the phone for 10 minutes and go meet up with people. They don't do that in this generation like we would have done. The tools are too easy for them just to stay on their computer and communicate. But I think that's another aspect of sports too. We've covered kind of the injury standpoint, but just the camaraderie and being on the team, the psychology of doing something that's bigger than yourself. There's a lot to be said for that, because, there's a whole lot of narcissistic kids running around because their parents tell them they're great. They believe they're great, and nothing humbles you quicker than being out there with kids your own age on a sports field. And that settles the matter right then. There's no faking it. You're either pretty good or you're not. And if you have the drive and determination to get better and be competitive, that's a good thing. Some kids just don't want to compete. They're not the fear of like, I don't want to be bad at this, or I don't want to fail. That prevents them sometimes from putting themselves out there in a sport, particularly a team sport. So it comes back to the parents to say, get out there and do it. You're going to learn a lot of life lessons, and you might actually be good at it, and you'll have fun along the way regardless. So it's a very healthy thing. And, you got to get kids off these computers, and the video games are probably what's driven everybody sitting around and being sedentary and not getting out there. I don't know, Rob, did you see that video of the Army recruits? It made the rounds in the last week or so on the news, where they were showing Army recruits are so out of shape that basic training is like really having to be elementary, having guys do jumping jacks and stuff, because they're coming in 80 pounds overweight, and they're not viable Army recruits.
Well, let me say this real quick before we go to Jack Turner and Kevin. Jack Turner, good friend of mine, is an attorney, graduate of the Hugo Black College of Law at Alabama, in private practice here in Memphis. But
for about 10 minutes, it was the Culverhouse Junior School of Law. But
yes, sir. No, but I know Jack's got to help us get ready. They have guests coming over here tonight, but we're going to talk. But real quick, I'll say this about Billy. Okay, go back to you were saying something. I lost my train of thought for a second.
We were talking about, it's not only just for youth athletes, but like Army recruits.
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you.
They're way out of shape, and the drill sergeants are having to do very basic training.
Billy, just to tell you how real that is, I go back to, no kidding, guys, in the fall of 1989, I was a television reporter, WRBL, News 3 on your side in Columbus, Georgia. Fort Benning was my coverage beat for 2 years. Practically lived out there. I did a story one time on the FTU, Fitness Training Unit. There were recruits then who couldn't do a pull-up. So I got out there and I did like 25 chin-ups. And they said, put that camera down, son, and sign up. I said, no. But the point was there were people, and so they pull you out of your basic training for 3 or 4 weeks. And so the platoon you started with, forget about it. You just link up with another group, but it's a national security risk, the fitness problem. But want to say this real quick.
Hey, Rob, let me just interject real quick there, because we've done some at Coach Safely, because we're trying to start at the youth level. We've talked to the military. We've talked, there's a group of retired generals and other officers called Mission Readiness. This is their mission. They are concerned about our ability to have enough quality recruits in the military for various reasons. I can't remember. I wish I could remember the number now. The percentage of teenagers, they're 18 to 24-year-olds, I should say, their prime recruiting area
Sure.
that are not able to join a service because they're not physically fit. They don't have enough education. They, again, basic things that we should be working together to provide to our young people. And again, fitness, education, and those things are impediments. And that is a national security problem. If our military we don't have enough young men and women who are physically fit, who can join the military, who want to join the military, that's a national security issue. That's something we should all be concerned about.
Absolutely, it is. And Jack Turner, and Kevin and Billy, Jack and I have talked about this before. I want to switch now to some NIL stuff. Jack, explain, you being a lawyer, a barrister, as they call you in the old country, about antitrust laws and all, because we had Coach Butch Thompson on the show earlier, Auburn baseball coach, and he goes, I'm going to listen to Jack Turner when he's on here. He's up at the Tennessee State baseball convention speaking to like 700 coaches. But I think there's a lot of people listening right now up there. But explain to Billy and Kevin and all of us, Coach Thompson, the whole free world, about, okay, I don't like NIL personally. I mean, I'm all for capitalism, making money, but I'm saying age-banded, deferred trust, maybe even build a pension for the student athletes, and you graduate, you hit the benchmarks, it's there for you. But legally, how do these antitrust laws work? And explain, if you can, what went into the decision July 1st of 2021, where we are and where you think we're going to end up.
Well, yeah, antitrust is what's driven all this. And, antitrust law goes back late 1800s with the Sherman Antitrust Act, which forbade restraints in trade. And won't get into all of the history of that law. Is pretty interesting how it used to be used against unions, and what it has come down to now with college sports is college sports started drawing the attention of antitrust enforcers later 20th century. And one of the big breakthrough cases was one in which the NCAA used to limit how much assistant coaches could make. It was done in the interest of parity, but then some assistant coaches sued and said, no, that's price fixing. The airlines can't talk to each other and say, you keep your rate at this and we'll do the same. And that way we don't, compete against each other. Well, the NCAA was effectively doing that. It was operating as a cartel. And the federal court said, nope, can't do it. Coaches are entitled to whatever they can get in the free market. And it just stayed limited to coaches and not athletes until a few years ago. And its most recent Supreme Court ruling, Justice Kavanaugh said in a concurring opinion, you'll have the majority opinion that's 5 justices sign on to. That's the law. But sometimes justices will write what's called a concurrence or a dissent that says, I agree with the end result, but I also think this, that they didn't necessarily get 5 votes for. And Kavanaugh basically hinted, said, if players come back and say they're entitled to whatever, we might not stand in their way. We might say, yeah, they are entitled to it. And so that's kind of the sword of Damocles that's hanging over the NCAA right now. And that's what's led to the current situation. I don't know that it'll get back to the Supreme Court because we've got the model we've got now. The question is, how sustainable is it? We saw with the kid who signed with Florida and then his promised NIL money didn't come through. And I'd be fascinated to know what happened there if some alum got mad about something and, yanked his commitment. But, a kid, an 18-year-old kid getting $14 million, I can see it. Kind of like what Woody Hayes said about the forward pass. 3 things can happen, 2 of them are bad. A lot of things can happen. A few of them are good, but a whole lot of them are bad. Putting that much money in the hands of what's still basically, mentally a child strikes me as insane. But it's where antitrust law has taken us, and I don't see it changing. I just see it getting worse in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Kevin?
Yeah, and Jack, I think we're not putting, based on what my understanding of the issue and the people I talk to, we're not putting the genie back in the bottle. We're not going backwards. In fact, the train is accelerating down the tracks, and there is, and I don't have all the particulars, but I believe there's a court case in the pipeline, or 2 perhaps. You've heard discussions of this situation moving forward to where athletes are considered employees of the university. Mm-hmm. What can you tell us about that? Because I think one of the things that bothers people about NIL is it's supposedly not controlled by the schools. The money's not coming from the schools. It's coming from outside interests. It's coming from boosters. We spent decades and decades trying to keep boosters out of away from paying college athletes. And now we're saying, have at it. So we've completely flipped that model. But again, I'm trying to let people know this is not necessarily going to stop here. What is the future of athletes being considered employees of universities?
It's a great question. And I know one Democratic senator, I think it was Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut, has basically said that he wants college football, college athletes, and not just football, all college athletes to be able to unionize. And I remember Roy Kramer speaking in Memphis years ago, Rob, I think you were there, saying that will destroy college football when it happens.
Yeah.
There's Adam Smith said once, there's a great deal of ruin in a nation. There's a great deal of ruin in a sport, I guess. And college football is the best, to my mind, the best sport anyone ever came up with. But I can see some good coming, for the players themselves being deemed as employees, but it opens a big legal can of worms. What obligations the schools have? I mean, they already take care of their health care. So in a way, they're in a sort of a workers' comp system, at least at the big schools. I don't know how it is with the smaller schools and what those kids get or are entitled to. But yeah, the way you classify a person, whether they're an employee, an independent contractor, student, athlete, whatever, has a huge impact on how they're going to be treated. And that's the scary thing about all this is it's getting. The only thing I can predict is the money's going to get bigger and the situation's going to get worse. One of the big differences between the NFL and college has been coaches have to approach things differently because the guy who's making more than you can't take that dictator attitude with him. And I don't think that Billy Napier was getting $14 million a year. How was his relationship with that kid going to be if he had stayed? And you're going to see more and more of that. It's always interesting to see the coaches that can make the jump from college to the NFL. A lot of times the players' coaches can do it, guys like Pete Carroll, but the dictators like Nick Saban, it didn't work for him, didn't work for Holtz. I wonder how it would have worked for Coach Bryan if he'd taken Joe Robbie's offer and coached the Dolphins. How is that going to affect coaching to see when the kids are making this much money?
Yeah. Billy?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to get back to something you said a minute ago, Rob, where, these kids have access to this money now at an ever younger age. There's going to be a tragedy where some kid is going to get ripped off from his well-meaning friends and family of the $3 million in NIL money that he got. Just like we hear about in pro football and other pro sports, that happens, but it's 20-something kids. When it happens to an 18-year-old, maybe that's what it's going to take, unfortunately, to be the cautionary tale. A kid who had an injury, but he had $4 million in NIL money. Oops, that money's gone, because everybody frittered it away because he was 18 and he trusted everybody. So maybe, Rob, the point that you made about that money, the genie's not going back to the model, but if you could put that money beyond the arm's reach of the well-intentioned friends and family and kids from the neighborhood that could say, hey, I helped you become the athlete that you are. So you owe me $100,000 or whatever. Maybe that's the way to do it, where they get the money, but it's at age 35 or age 40, when that would be really meaningful. Life takes its toll. All of us, envision that our life is going to be all green lights and it's going to be easy. But at age 35 and 40, you might have had a divorce. You might have had a health issue. And if you had some money sitting there in a trust that you could get access to, it would be a real blessing. And 18
I've drawn up a few trusts for clients, and I've never had.
Hold those thoughts, Jack. That's what I wanted to get into. Age banded, deferred trust. Kevin Scarbinsky, Billy Roberts, Jack Turner. Right after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House Equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
You were going into something about drawing up trust for clients. We got Buddy Martin also joining us right now from GatorBaitMedia.com. But Jack, talk about the importance. And I look, I'm not an attorney, but you knew Barry Blackburn. I've worked with attorneys for years, age banded, incentive based trusts. And Jack, those have a lot of teeth in those trust legal documents, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, it's a way to, there are different kinds of trusts you can set up. Spendthrift trust would be kind of something you're talking about here, but yeah, ways to keep somebody from blowing through all their capital. And, anyone who thinks that an 18-year-old ought to have unrestricted access to a big pile of cash has never met many 18-year-olds. But, it's funny. I was thinking, who would have thought that that agents might actually have a positive role to play in college sports? But there we are. Because, I've heard Jimmy Sexton and Brian Parker, a local agent around here, talk about the model they have set up where, the athlete's money, when they sign with a pro team, it goes to the agent first. He gets his 6%, I think is what the NFL Players Association cap is. The athlete gets an allowance, but the rest of it gets saved, put aside, invested, so they don't end up like, Tony Dorsett, Barry Sanders, these guys who are not Sanders, kid from Marcus Dupree. These kids, end up with nothing very quickly. A buddy of mine played at Auburn. He didn't go to the league, but a lot of his, some of his teammates did. And he said those guys had the signing bonus spent the day of. So, there's got to be some mechanism in a trust to, be the legal way to do it to make sure these kids have something left, because they can blow out or just, a bunch of your entourage would be amazing. It would be amazing. Those guys can be like termites, how fast they can go through money, and they do.
Yeah. Buddy Martin, we've got Jack Turner on, an attorney, friend of mine from Memphis, graduated from the Alabama College of Law, talking about the legality of the NFL, NIL. Kevin Scarbinsky, Billy Roberts on with us. And Buddy, if you could shed some light on the situation with Rashada, the quarterback at Florida, the money. I know it's a lot of speculation. It's all speculation really on the amount, but we've been talking about that exact case. So who better than the coach, Buddy Martin?
Well, good morning, everybody. Glad to have Jack on here displaying figures, because people who work with numbers, as Kevin knows, are not people who work with words. So there's a natural contradiction for us when it comes to money, and I honestly don't have a clue. I can tell you what's being said and what's being thought by some people, but there's no doubt about it that it's a mess. And I won't say it's all bad, because I think it has given light to some things that have been in the dark for a long time. We know, don't we, Kevin, that this has been going on for a long time. Money came in brown bags instead of deposit slips in the bank, and this is just another way. Now, when it gets out in the open, all of a sudden people are bidding and the price goes up. And one thing you better know is you better know your market. You better know your market prices when you start bidding. I don't know what happened. I can tell you some of the stories going around with Rashada, not the least of which is lawyers being involved. Jack, no offense to people who work in that business, but the fact is there's something that went on with Rashada when he committed to Miami. And John Rudds, the big talker and big money guy who's buying all the players in Miami, got involved and was crowing about it. And then suddenly Florida flipped Rashada. Now, there was obviously money involved, talk involved there. The number being put out, which I find hard to believe, but hey, what do I know? It was $16.8 million over 4 years. I just read something a while ago which said that there was a poison. Now, this is again the speculation, and Jack, you would have better off this than I would. There was a poison pill contract in Miami that Ruiz put in there for Rashada, a $6 million penalty. So I guess the question became, again, this is all speculation hearsay. I know, I'm telling you what people are talking about, is that when he went to Florida, someone wanted that $6 million to be paid by somebody. The lawyers talking to lawyers, and of course the deal went south. Here's what doesn't make sense. and my friend Chris Storing was on the Feinbaum show last week talking about this. What doesn't match up is the timing. That the Miami deal went south on the 6th of December, whatever, and the deal at Florida was being, I guess, negotiated at that time, and yet on the 21st of December, National Signing Day, although he was 2 hours late coming in, Rashada committed to Florida. Now, if you're not going to take the deal, why do you? I mean, if you go buy my house and you write out, you put a good faith deposit of $50,000 on it, and you want to buy it for $300,000, and you back out, I'm taking that $50,000 because that's good faith money. But something in that discussion, and again, I don't know what it is, when it happened, it all blew up. And unfortunately, the guys holding the bag, the empty bag, were Scott Strickland and Billy Napier. Now, I think there's enough guilt to go around for everybody on this. I wrote in this column. There's enough blame for everybody. Everybody involved had something poopy dust on what they were doing. There's nothing about it. It was embarrassing for Florida. It's become a national sport to kick the Gators around like a piñata, and they deserve some of it. Now, who did it? I don't know, but we all know one thing. No football player has never taken a snap in college is not worth $13.8 million. And that's the anomaly in it. That's what we're trying to understand and how to get to that. And all I know is when you buy a house, you have an appraiser, right, who tells you what it's worth. And so you better know, despite what Kenny Rogers said in the song The Gambler, count your money at the table. Know what you got. And so don't put something out there that you can't back up for whatever reason. Whoever said it. Gator Collective, which I don't think it was them, but I don't know, or Rich Booster, who said that's too much. Somebody said no, and so the Rashada family backed out. The release has been signed. He's no longer a Gator, and I think Gator fans are ready to move on to the next chapter, which is the Graham Mertz, the Wisconsin quarterback, or the guy that got on the squad, who's going to be Jack Miller. So
yeah.
I remember when we were all flabbergasted that Albert Means was worth $100,000, or at least somebody paid that for him. He never turned out to be worth quite that.
Yes, Albert Means. Yes, I seem to recall that name. Means Bueller. Kevin, you remember that one?
I spent time in a federal courtroom in Memphis as part of the Albert Means situation, watching a trial, watching Logan Young be tried. It's again, we've come full circle. We've completely flipped, I should say, the script. We were supposed to try to keep boosters out of recruiting and paying players, and that was against the rules. And now, there's supposed to be a rule. We should remind people there's supposed to be a rule that you don't use NIL money to recruit players to your school. Mm-hmm. This is as blatant an example of it being done, which we know it's being done, despite what Jimbo Fisher might say. It's being done a lot of places in a lot of different ways. But we've brought the third party into the ball game. We brought the boosters, the businesses, the corporate. We brought them into the game. But somehow, as Buddy, as you mentioned, somehow the coaches, the ADs, they are responsible, even though, and there is communication. We're not naive enough to think there's not some communication between these collectives and coaching staffs, but still, it's just such a murky situation. We've exchanged one set of problems for another.
Yeah. Well, when Rob and I, in the early days of NIL as Auburn fans, we were like, this is great. All the stuff Auburn used to get accused of and got in trouble for is now above the table. This is going to be wonderful. We'll never go on probation again.
Hey, Bill, you've been around a while when Auburn got busted because Corky Frost, a booster, bought a box of steaks for Eric Ramsey.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, Eric Ramsey is very well liked in the state of Alabama. He does well down there.
Hey, how about a Florida player getting his money paid by a friend, the booster, because of child support to keep him out of jail, and that's one of the things that Charlie Pell got rung up for. Not that Charlie didn't have a few things on his record, but that's one. I mean, how could you do that? So it's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, and this is ridiculous. So I don't know. I'm hoping the great game of college football will have, what did we say last week, a mid-course correction.
Yeah.
The market's corrected itself a little bit here now. Now people are going to have somebody to put a value on what these guys are worth, because these agents we talk about, the ones that are operating with the college kids, you don't think they're inflating the market just a little bit? Of course they are, and they're playing one against the other. The number gets out of control. And what's the athletic director supposed to think? I got to go get me a quarterback. How much do they cost? Okay, well, we got to pay whatever it is, because then the housing boom. Remember when houses that were selling for $200,000 became $500,000 houses? The market changes, and so who knows what it is? I don't know how to say it. You, Kevin?
No, and here's the problem. We're doing this at younger ages. How do you put a value on a financial value on a high school quarterback and project what he's going to accomplish at the college level? That's very difficult to do, because all 5 stars don't become NFL All-Pros. They don't become college All-Americans. Now, you probably have a better chance if you are a 5-star, because you've got some natural ability, obviously, to have earned that designation. But we are in murky waters. And buddy, you made a great point. I immediately discount any numbers I hear about these NIL deals. And I suspect that there is a lot of inflation going on because agents are trying to set the market. And of course, they're going to try to set it as high as possible so they get as big a cut as possible.
Hey, Jack, I know you've got to go. You've got to get ready. You said you could stay on for about
4 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Real quick. Close out by saying this: the big print in a contract always giveth; the small print at the bottom taketh away, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, yeah, buddy, if you know anybody who's getting sued over this, let me send you my card. I'd be glad to help them out. But yeah, contracts are meant to be clear, but they're not always. And that's issues you get into. Well, what did he promise me orally? And that's normally not supposed to come in. But if the contract is vague, maybe it can. But I'll tell you 2 other dynamics I think you're going to see at work here, talking about enforcement. The NCAA absolutely hates getting sued. And I think at some point they say, why do we run the risk of getting sued trying to enforce these rules over a game we don't even make any money off of? Yeah, they're not involved with the playoff. They don't get that money. They don't get the TV revenue anymore. I think at some point the NCAA says, do your own thing, create your own agency for college football. We're not going to run that risk of regulating it. And I'm drawing a blank on the other impact this is going to have, but
well, a good word for the NCAA is sayonara. Look it up, okay?
Yeah.
Hey, Jack, if people want to contact you, let them know how they can do it, and we'll let you get to work. I know your wife is over there. She's got the broom and the rake ready.
It's all ready. You can contact me at CroneLawFirmPLC.com. That's got all my info. We'd love to hear from you if there's any way we can help you out in Tennessee or Mississippi.
Hey, Jack, real quick before you go, I want to give you my plan of my 2 friends here in Ocala, 2 lawyer friends, Gator fans. So they got to figure it out. They decided what Florida ought to do is go and offer money to all of the backups on the Alabama offense and defense, get them all. And then what money's left over, go to Florida State and pay Jordan Travis, a quarterback, not to play next year.
It sounds like a good plan. The best quarterback in the world is always the backup at Alabama. Just ask the Alabama fan.
Not about it.
Yes. Jack, have fun today. I'll talk to you a little bit.
All right, see y'all later. Bye.
All right, appreciate it. The barrister from Bama, Jack Turner. Love having him on here. Explain it. Billy Roberts, Kevin Scarbinsky, Buddy Martin, and I think that provided a lot of clarity in what's going on. So we're gonna, the free market always works it out. You go back in parallels in history, the stock market, the late 90s, you could throw darts against the wall and make money in the stock market until we had a major correction in March of 2000. The NASDAQ was over 5,000. Suddenly it's at 1,100. What am I doing? I've got Stewart out there, my $5.95 trades. Well, remember, it's customer behavior. And buddy, I like what you just said. I think the agents are involved because they're throwing out these high figures trying to move the market. Like if I'm a football coach and I'm struggling, I get my agent to put rumors out that I'm talking to other schools to give me some leverage where I am. Don't think that doesn't happen. Anybody want to?
The Tommy Tuberville career plan. Every year he was interested in another job, right? Or somebody allegedly was interested in him.
Yeah. And I mean, it happens all the time. and it's called, get off of my back. And that's what it is. But it's somebody's, maybe it was one of y'all two, or Jimmy, or Billy, when he said it about the Sextonization, even the high school.
Me. I take credit for that.
Yeah. But I heard about a kid, a 5-star quarterback in the South this year, that wanted $35,000 cash up front just to have a sit-down meeting with him and his people. I mean, this is insane.
Well, Rob, and I said it a few weeks ago, and the context was, with the tantalizing prospect of Lane Kiffin coming to Auburn, maybe less tantalizing today than it was a couple months ago, based on how their season ended. But if you think about it, Sexton might have said to him, and I'm theorizing, flirt with Auburn. At a minimum, you'll get a nice raise from Ole Miss. And if you continue to be at Ole Miss for a year or two, you could be the head coach at Alabama when Saban inevitably retires in the next 20 years. If you can hang around long enough. But in the meantime, flirt with Auburn and get a raise, and I imagine that's a likely conversation. Like, if you're not serious about going there, or the interference that is legendary is real, and you're not going to get full control at a place like Auburn. Ole Miss will let you have full control, but at least flirt with Auburn and you'll get a nice raise. I'm sure that was part of their private conversation.
Kevin, buddy.
Well, look, Jimmy is the only person in SEC history who's undefeated. Jimmy Sexton wins. He wins when his coaches win. He wins when his coaches lose. He wins at the beginning of the day, the end of the day, and all day long. Jimmy's got it figured out. He has, some of the clauses that have become standard in coaches' contracts. Now the idea that there's no mitigation, that if you get fired, say Gus Malzahn at Auburn, and you get this huge buyout, $21.5 million in Gus's case, you get another job and they're going to pay you $3-4 million a year. Used to be that would reduce your buyout. Yeah. Not anymore. There's no mitigation. You get the full buyout, even if you go get another job that's paying you millions and millions of dollars a year. It is the market, the coaches market is insane. And Jimmy pretty much has set the market, and more power to him and more power to his clients. They've had enough success, obviously, to drive those numbers up. And then the money that has poured into college football, primarily from television, provides the revenue that schools are willing to spend on coaches. So, and that's the real dilemma. And let's be honest. That's, I think, a big part of why we are where we are with NIL, because players aren't stupid and families aren't stupid. They saw coaches.
Hold those thoughts, Kevin.
Yeah, they saw that money, that revenue start to go up for coaches, and they said, wait a minute, what about us?
Yeah, exactly. We're going to talk more about it right after this with Sidelines.
Hey everyone, my name is David Wisdom.
And I'm Shelby McNeil, and we're attorneys with Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short, your local Auburn law firm. Established in 1959 right in the heart of Auburn, Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short has grown in response to our clients' legal needs. We're a full-service law firm focusing on the legal issues our clients face.
We take pride in providing our clients with exceptional legal services, ongoing communication, and skilled representation. If you have any questions about our services, please give us a call or visit our website today.
All right, Buddy Martin, Kevin Scarbinsky, Billy Roberts, Rob Browne, final segment here on Sidelines Saturday Roundtable. And guys, I want to, you're right about what Jimmy Sexton did. And again, as a capitalist, I love the free market. I just wish the free market, and Buddy talks about it a lot. The fans own college sports, and they'll speak when enough is enough. We'll all know. We will definitely all know it. I want to go back now with some great memories of some great college football, and Buddy and Kevin and Billy, all of us. It's history, tradition, and heroes. And you think about Florida football as a national brand, Buddy. It is a powerful national brand with 3 national championships in the last 27 years. 9, 10 SEC championships. Other than Alabama, the Gators have been to the SEC championship game in Atlanta more than anybody. Okay. So where does Florida football stand right now going into year 2 with Billy Napier?
I think that's what we're trying to figure out. We do a show on Thursday nights with Ben Troop, France Beard, and Lauren Meadows, our coach. And we talk about things like, all right, where do you go from here now? And I said to them Thursday night on the Orange Blue Blood show, all right, you're Billy Napier. You've lost this quarterback. DJ Lagway, a 5-star, is coming in the following year. He looks like the real deal, but you've got now to figure out what you're going to do this year. And if you notice very quietly, you wouldn't know it outside of around here, that in addition to getting the quarterback Mertz in Wisconsin and also having Jack Miller, who was a 4-star at Ohio State, you've got all of a sudden these massive offensive linemen all transferring to Florida. I mean, massive. And there's about 7 of them. They're going to probably get Kentucky's top offensive lineman this week, who is their best player on the offensive line. They go across, you wouldn't believe how big these guys are. I did the math on them. They just got a guy 6'8" and 350. They got another guy 6'8". I mean, like Fran said, this is bigger than the basketball teams in the SEC, and they're massive. And so remember, they've got Rob Sale, who was before was the offensive line coach for the Giants. Him and Stapleton, who is the other. They have 2 offensive line coaches. So guess what I think Billy's going to do? Hand the ball off and run the football this year. As much as I'd like to say that's not me, I don't care for it. The truth of the matter is, when Steve Spurrier was at Florida, for all his throwing the ball over the field, he ran the ball 50% of the time. And you know this to be true, Kevin. When you can run the football and run it well, and they can't stop you, you'll win every game.
It's the most demoralizing thing for a defense when you cannot line up and stop the run. That's why even today, even with people throwing the ball all over the yard, and it really in the SEC started with Spurrier and the fun and gun, he always had quality running games. They didn't just run it, they ran it well with guys like Eric Brett, just to name one.
Second half of every game they ran it, they would run it. Get it up by 4 touchdowns and run the football. You're right, Kevin.
Yeah, and that's been the heart of just about every championship team going back. You can go back. Everybody remembers the great year Joe Burrow had in 2019. Yeah. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was vital to that effort to go undefeated. So they didn't do that just throwing the ball. So, that's and look, Billy, they did it last year. They were very good running the football.
Oh, one of the best in the country.
Just far too inconsistent throwing it. And what could they not do? They couldn't stop the run on defense.
That's correct.
Couldn't stop it.
But you got to use your offense as your defense. When you run the football and keep the ball away from these high-powered quarterbacks, now it is your offense is all part of your defense. And I know that's what Billy's thinking. I can see it happening. I've got the name picked out for these guys already. It's the I-75 Road Graders, Grators. These guys are massive.
Nice. Hey, Rob, think back to the 2016 national championship game. Alabama-Clemson, the second straight year they played.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts was a freshman. He puts Alabama in the lead with a minute and a half, 2 minutes left. But that defense, which we thought all year was one of the best defenses we'd ever seen, Jonathan Allen up front, for example, just to name one guy, that defense, they scored so many touchdowns on defense. We call them the knots, the non-offensive touchdown. They were so good. But they could not hold up because they ended up playing 99 snaps in that game because they couldn't stop Clemson. Clemson was moving the ball. They couldn't get off the field on third down. And their offense, to your point, buddy, the Alabama offense on third down, I want to say they were 2 for 15, something ridiculously weak. They couldn't sustain drives, so the defense kept having to go back out there and go back out there and go back out there. And so they didn't have enough gas left at the end to stop that last drive by Deshaun Watson.
They say you got a yin when everybody has yangs. You got to go the other way. And I don't know this, but I can look at the numbers and the size of these guys and saying, hey, and 2 running backs they got coming out who are really good looking for a third one. So I think this is how they're going to go. They're going to throw it 20 times a game, maybe 15, and try to run the football.
Well, I mean, offensive football goes in cycles. I mean, the hurry up, no huddle offenses were the rage until defensive coordinators started to figure them out. And so it's always about something that's hot. But Kevin, Billy, anybody, buddy, the shelf life of a defensive coordinator or an offensive coordinator is about 3 years. It takes about a year and a half to fully take in a new defense, or probably the same thing with a new offense. So the trends in college football are what they are. But I think Auburn bringing in Ron Roberts, who kind of crafted the what they call that defense, the creeper defense, that is really good at slowing down RPOs. He did it at Delta State, Southeast Louisiana, most recently defensive coordinator at Baylor. That's going to be fun to watch him at Auburn, although you need the crawl at the bottom of the TV screen to keep up with the roster at Auburn. I mean, Kevin, remember you and I and Billy, buddy, we knew the 2 and 3 depth chart. We knew where these kids were from. I just told Mildred, my producer, during the break, I know who the guys are, but they're coming and going so fast. It's difficult. And here it is right now. Hugh Freeze has Auburn number 2 in the nation in the portal class. And that's some hard work going on, isn't it?
Well, really, in some ways, this may turn out, and it's way too early to know, but it may turn out that Auburn got lucky when Lane Kiffin said no. If he changed his mind, if he truly was coming, as some very important people at Auburn really believed he was coming, and they believed he changed his mind, they thought they had a deal done behind the scenes, and Lane did what Lane does. He changed his mind. He went the other way. But getting you Freeze, if you get past the baggage and they're still there, and the baggage is there, we all know it. We all know what it is. But as far as a football coach, and as far as a recruiter, and as far as a high school recruiter, Lane has not distinguished himself as a high school recruiter.
No.
Hugh Freeze had.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
What he did, though, he got some good quarterbacks. He's got too many of them. There's no way those 3 guys are going to stay.
But, Rob, we were talking a minute ago about, you said, there's trends in football and they come and go. I mean, anybody watching the national championship game with Georgia is like, I got to go get some tight ends. I mean, Bauer was, defeating every matchup that was thrown at him. I mean, and Georgia, has always kind of featured tight ends. They've been pretty stubborn about that. They've had tons of great tight ends going back 30, 40 years. But that probably will be a new trend in the coming years. Let's go find a Bauer for our team because
but Billy, in all due respect, Bill, those guys ain't falling off the back of turnip trucks. He's exceptional.
Well, those guys are. Yeah, everybody'd have one if they were out there. I get it. Yeah.
Hi, here's a good question: who's the best quarterback coach in the SEC in terms of developing quarterbacks? Is it Josh Heupel, or Lane Kiffin? Mike Leach, God rest his soul, was certainly one of the top ones in the country.
Yeah, well, it might be Bobby Petrino.
Yeah, that's right.
And here's a new trend. This was told to me by the HBC the other day. Watch for these guys all start to have quarterback coaches again, to work with their quarterbacks every day, because the head coaches, the guys like Spurrier was one and Billy's one, who work with their quarterbacks. With all the NIL deals going on, they are overwhelmed. When Brian Johnson left the staff at Florida and went to the Philadelphia Eagles, automatically Florida's defense went down. Offense went down. He's doing a great job. The bright new quarterback coaches, watch what's happening to them. And by the way, all these offensive coordinators in the NFL look like they're in high school. For crying out loud, these guys look like they're 15 years old. But they're smart. They're smart and they're good. And quarterback coaches is a new thing that's going to be happening.
Well, that position, obviously, the emphasis on that position is greater than ever. Mm-hmm. The importance of that position is greater than ever. And, you ask who's the best right now in the SEC. I don't know of anyone that could have done what Lane Kiffin did with Blake Sims at Alabama. Blake had played different positions. They put him at running back. And for 1 year, the first year Lane came in as offensive coordinator in Tuscaloosa, Blake Sims set all kinds of Alabama passing records. It was an extraordinary season. It didn't end well. They lost in the first playoff in the semifinals to Ohio State. But I don't think you could get any more out of Blake Sims than Lane Kiffin did. It was pretty incredible. He's got
Walker Howard now plus 2 other guys. So he's got 3 guys who can play. And Walker
my Florida source, buddy, my older son, was so excited. He thought Walker Howard because I think he told me Billy had been maybe the first to offer Walker Howard when he was
the first, and he lived.
Yeah, and he thought he might be headed to Gainesville, but
they
obviously
lived
that
in
didn't work out.
Lafayette. The Howard family, Jamie, who played at LSU, they lived in Lafayette, and they knew him well and liked him. So we thought maybe he might be the guy too. We say, yeah, we'll take Walker Howard for Jaden Rashada any day of the week. But he went to Ole Miss.
Yeah, and look around. That's great because Josh Heupel played. Mike Leach was his coach at Oklahoma, position coach for Bob Stoops, won national championship, runner-up, I think, for the Heisman. But you've got to have somebody, and if the HBC head ball coach Steve Spurrier is saying it, the old E.F. Hutton commercial, people are going to listen. They're going to take what he says to heart. Kevin, I'm looking at Alabama's situation right now. They've made a change. Pete Golding's gone to Ole Miss. What's going to happen with Bill O'Brien? And they've got a new receivers coach to get in there too.
Well, everyone just fully believes that Bill O'Brien's going to be coaching somewhere in the NFL next year as an offensive coordinator, most likely in New England, and reunite with Bill Belichick, where he kind of came to fame working for him with the Patriots and Tom Brady years ago. And so that will be a shock if he doesn't leave and create an opening there. And of course, Nick's already looking for a defensive coordinator. A lot of buzz about Jeremy Pruitt. Can he make that hire? And if anybody can make that hire, given the uncertainty about Jeremy and the NCAA accusations, and that's what they are right now, they're accusations, they're allegations, as that case makes its way through the NCAA justice system, such as it is, if anybody can make that hire, it's Nick Saban. And there is not a better defensive coordinator at work. Well, he's not at work today. He's up in Fort Payne, Alabama with his family. But there's not a better defensive coordinator in the country, and not a better one suited to Alabama because he's been there. He's done it. He did it there. He did it at Georgia. He did it at Florida State. It would be a no-brainer if not for the shadow hanging over him because of those NCAA allegations. Of course, he wouldn't be available if it weren't for those NCAA allegations either.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I think Jeremy Pruitt is an elite level guy. He ruffled feathers at Georgia, but look what he said came true. Look what Kirby Smart's doing. He's winning over there. So I mean, and guys,
fun fact. Hey, I love these fun facts. Here's a fun fact for you guys.
Yeah.
The first 11 years Nick Saban's at Alabama, their defense ranks higher in the national rankings in scoring. Their defense ranks higher than their offense. They're in the top 5 virtually every year. The offense is good, but not great. 2018, the year Tua becomes the starter. The year after Jeremy Pruitt left to go to Tennessee as Alabama defensive coordinator, he becomes the Tennessee head coach. The last 5 years, Alabama's offense has ranked higher. Scoring offense ranks higher in the national rankings than its scoring defense. And Alabama's won only one national championship in the last 5 years. I don't know what all that means, but it's an interesting situation to me.
We'll go back 6 years ago. Alabama's averaging scoring 14 points a game more than they did. It goes right in line with what you just said. Guys, we just got a couple of minutes left, and most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Go out and help people with the expectation of getting nothing in return. Give to give, don't give to get. And Kevin, you and Buddy let people know, again, start with you, Buddy, how they can follow you and the great work that you put out. And we love having you on Sidelines.
Well, thank you. And if you're a Gator fan or if you're not, you can join. We're on the air at 9 o'clock at night, 4 nights a week. And so we have some terrific guests. If you want to talk ball with us, we're Facebook Live, Buddy Martin Show, 9 p.m. And then, of course, Gator Bait, GatorBaitMedia.com, where you can read all your good stuff on Florida football. We have some terrific writers, including Fran Spears. So join us there. You can sign up for a modest amount of money. Check out a plan that works for you, GatorBaitMedia.com. Thanks for asking.
Oh, absolutely. I love it. I get that Twitter announcement. I just click on it and watch the show, and it is great stuff. And Kevin, again, the great work that you're doing. And for both of y'all, thanks you a million times over for taking time to join us on the Saturday Roundtable.
Well, this is always fun, Rob, being with you guys. You can follow my writing at Birmingham Leade, and it's LEDE.com, the old journalism way you spell lead, the beginning of a story. BirminghamLeade.com. I write twice a week, every Thursday, every Sunday, and I do freelance work pieces. I've got a piece coming out on the New Orleans Pelicans website about Zion Williamson's coming out party back in December. He scored a career-high 43, scored the last 14 points of the game, punctuated it with a dunk on the 20th anniversary of the NBA coming back to New Orleans. Check out that story on Pelicans.com coming up in the next week.
Absolutely. And listen, man, Ja Morant, Zion Williamson, who was the best player to come out of the draft that year? Certainly the guy who's had to overcome the most is Zion. But, man, those are two guys that are franchise players. I'm looking forward to reading what you got to say. And, Billy, as always, thanks so much and being on here on the roundtable with us. And what I will say this, too, we got the playoffs today. Anybody got let's hear the picks real quick. Buddy, Kevin, Billy.
Well, I'm going to go. I can't go with the Jaguars. I'd like to. They're just Kansas City is a very difficult place to play, and so I've got to go with Kansas City. I've forgotten the other game. It's 8:30. Who is? I've forgotten it. Anybody know? Remember? I can't remember the 8:30 game.
Kevin.
I'm not an NFL guy. I couldn't even. You say give you picks. I can't. I'm like you, buddy. I know Kansas City's playing. And I know the Eagles are there in the Final Four in the NFC with Jalen Hurts. But other than that, don't ask me for NFL opinions. I'm the last guy to ask there.
We're very myopic on this show.
College football guys.
Billy,
all about college.
Billy's going to say it. The Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones.
That's what I was going to say. Dallas. Yeah, I like them, and it'd be fun for the Jaguars to upset. Because the Chiefs are kind of. The heir apparent, people are just anointing them, but I'd like to see an upset, more like college football. Pro football is way too predictable. I like the chaos of college football.
By the way, it's the Giants, Eagles, and I'll take the Eagles.
All right. Well, we got to pick. Look, great show today. Thanks so much, and everybody have a great weekend. We'll be back with you Monday as we are 6 days a week. Sidelines. We are out of here.